Hi, I'm Bobbi Deporter and really pleased to be here with you, part of the Global Life Skills Day 2021. We all have so much to share with each other and learn from each other. I always look for things when I'm hearing somebody else. It's like, what is that that connects with me? And just, being a lifelong learner myself is, I love to learn, and we just keep going every day. So my journey, a little bit about my journey and who I am, and really what drives me and what I feel makes a difference today. I think about my own journey as a child. I grew up quite shy, and I don't know why I was so shy and worried about what other people are thinking about me. I don't know whether it was the not feeling good enough or just trying to, you know, find my way um, through school. I always looked also for, I had friends, but I would look for somebody that's standing on the side. I always remember that was something I would do, is reach out, because I was shy, even though I had good friends, is look for somebody else that was struggling with that and go be a friend with them for a day. I remember a teacher even talking to my mom about that. So, it's interesting to always reflect on your own childhood. And then in the teenage years, finding myself, and it's two things being true at the same time, because I would be shy, but then I would put myself in situations and always like, how did I get here? Like running for office, or, all kinds of activities that were going there. So I did enjoy my high school years, and I got married young. I got married at 19 years old, and quickly had two children after that. And it was just what I wanted to do. I was happy doing that. I was a mother, and I had two beautiful children. And then all of a sudden, it was like, after some years, I started having this gut feeling that I was meant to do something more. And I didn't know what that was. And I'd start talking about it, and then friends would make suggestions to me, and nothing seemed to fit right. And then I saw an ad, and it was for a company that was new and forming, and it was in San Francisco. And it was a real estate company that did residential income property in San Francisco, a lot with the Victorians that they were doing, buying and renovating, and investments. So I joined the company, and there was something about it that just drew me in, and I knew it was a meant to be, and I just followed it. When I went in for the interview, there were some intimidating moments, and I just sat there and let them go through, like, um, that you have to make so much money, and, you don't have the experience, and all these things that they were saying, but I just let it go through me, and they did hire me, even though hundreds were applying at that time. And they set a goal that I had to make or not be there anymore, a yearly goal. And I ended up making that goal on the very first day. And I remember people running around the office. It's like, what did I do? It's like, well, you told me that's what I needed to do. And then I know I felt very comfortable the rest of the year, because I had already satisfied that, got that out of the way, and was very successful there. And mostly it was because I was just listening to people and finding their needs and supporting them. The company was very focused on values, and that's what attracted me. That's what they talked about before I joined. It was really a focus on relationships, both internal and external, outside the company. So when we were working with clients, we were very transparent about everything that was going on and what they wanted and what we could do, and what the price was before, what it is now. Everything was very open. We were very focused on win-win, when win-win was not a term used back then. It was by us. It was always looking at how both sides can feel good and move forward. And we focused on values, and also taking ownership for your results. If I was making calls and not getting results, they send me home. Come back when it was all about me, on the results that I was getting. So I learned so much there, and the atmosphere felt so good that people would work long hours, and visitors that would come in would say what they didn't really know how to express it, but it felt really good being there. Even the mailman came in, and almost every day he would sit down in a chair and just spend some time taking it in. Well, hundreds of people wanted to come and work there, and it wasn't, to sell real estate and development. It was more the personal growth that was going on there. It was life skills back then that we were learning about communication and relationship and responsibility, being accountable, really feeling good about yourself. So I left with one of the partners and we started a business school for entrepreneurs to teach some of the things that we were doing. And we got written up in a national magazine for doing it, etc. So the business school was a place where we were teaching students to really look at their goals and values and who they are and what that match is. And it was during that time also that we were studying the work of Buckminster Fuller. And he is a philosopher, an inventor. He invented the geodesic dome. He was all about making the world a better place for everyone. And he made a commitment and really turned his life over to making the world work for everyone. And that was his commitment. So for me, we brought him to the business school, and then we had a relationship with him and worked with him. And I spent a lot of time with him over 7 years. And what stands out for me with Bucky, as he's called, was his curiosity and his love of learning. Driving around with him, he'd look at something and rock formations or whatever it is. He would always, wow, look at that. And he always talked about doing your own experiential evidence of what's going on. So he was totally a lifelong learner. He was curious. He was all about doing good for the world. And that made such an impression on me. And the other person, I feel so blessed that I had two major mentors in my life, one being Bucky, and the other is Dr. Georgi Lazanov from Bulgaria, who is considered the originator of what's called accelerated learning. So from that accelerated learning, we knew the results he was getting in Bulgaria, and this is in the late 70s, and it was a closed country at that time, but we did get him out and we got him to the US, and he was in my home for 3 weeks. When I reflect on it now, it's like, it was bigger impact than I could have ever imagined, and didn't know it at the time, but we learned his methods and applied it to the business school. And adults were having so much fun learning. They said, school was never like this for me. And they were learning so much. We had accountants come, CPAs come that said, I really got an in-body experience of accounting, the way you were teaching and what you're doing. And so a lot of them were parents, and they said, we have to do something for our kids. We need better schooling and learning for our kids, and we want these mindsets and attitudes for our kids. So I left and founded a youth program called Super Camp. And we just had our 40th summer. It's been all these years. But it was a youth program we hold on university campuses. And it's teaching students learning how to learn skills and life skills. And I'll tell you, most students, when they go through the program, say, why didn't anybody teach this to me before? It makes such a difference in their lives. It was that very first program that, I didn't know if it was going to work for youth. My two children were teenagers at the time, and that was also part of my interest in, starting a program for teenagers. And my son was saying, I've been to, he'd been with the business school and saw it was going. He said, I don't know this is going to work for teens. But we went ahead and created the environment. It wasn't the business schools we were teaching. We were teaching learning and life skills, but it was all the things we were doing from a positive environment and atmosphere, and the learning and life skills that we were so focused on. The atmosphere and the environment, I want to say, another thing I really learned from both Dr. Lazanov and Bucky is that Bucky said, one of his quotes is, I would never try to change people. That's much too difficult. What I do is I change the environment they're in, and they change themselves. And Dr. Lazanov talked about everything speaks, everything makes an impression. And so everything is sending a message to us, negative or positive. And one of the most powerful things I learned from him is that he said that there is no neutral. Come from that place if there is no neutral. Everything is either positive or negative. So then we think of our whole life, everything we say, everything we do. Is it building myself and others up, or is it tearing them down? It's one or the other. There is no neutral. So that was, just really a powerful, powerful place to be. And then during that first program, the students, some of them not wanting to be there, a lot of them, it was like their parents told them I attended this program and you need to attend it. But boy, after a couple of days, the students just jumped into the learning. You could just feel how good they were feeling about themselves. I can remember, it was 64 students and 40 years ago. And I think I can name almost every student that was there, made such an impression on me. And there was one little boy, he was small in size and he was on the younger of the students and high school students. And he was so quiet and shy during the program. I never saw him raise his hand during the program. And, my mind's going, is he getting anything? Is he learning anything? And so at the end of the program, we had the students, we had a celebration, and we had students raise their hands and come up in front of everyone and talk about what they had learned and, what they were going to take away. Well, they were all sharing and, outgoing. And then I look back and I see this little boy and his hand goes up. So we called on him and he came up to the front of the room and he stood and looked out, and all the other students, a lot of them bigger, popular, seniors were all there. They applauded. They even jumped up on the table and started stomping their feet and clapping so loud that I watched that little boy and his eyes got so big, and, he stood taller and his shoulders were down. And I just thought in that moment when I saw that little boy, I said, his life is never going to be the same. And that's where I made the commitment to go with youth and wanting to support youth from that little boy. And he shared, and it wasn't that it was so profound what he said, but the act of him sharing. And I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because 25 years later, we had a 25th celebration. And because of the internet at that time, I Googled and I tracked him down and I found him. And here's 25 years later, he was part of it. We had 250 people come to this celebration. And he came with his father and his brother. And I was telling the story from the stage. And I had him stand up and I acknowledged him. And I said, your bravery, your courage. You stood up in front of all those people when you were so shy, and, you had the courage to do that. And I made the commitment, to follow that to youth. And it was so wonderful and emotional for me to be able to acknowledge him there and to tell him, here we are now, years later, where we do programs around the world. We've been in over 20 countries. We're in schools. We have now over 85,000 graduates and legacy of kids that have attended the program. And I feel that I went that direction and committed my life because of your bravery standing on that stage and knowing your life would never be the same. And he could share about his life and what he was doing. So, surprises for me was when I started it and made that commitment to start a youth program, I actually wrote a 2-page business plan on paper. And I still have a copy of it. Can you imagine? It's 40 years later, I still have that 2-page. And at that time, it felt like a pipe dream that we would be international, that I would write books, that we would be making a difference, for actually millions of students through the schools we work with. And it felt like a pipe dream, but I put it in paper. I'm such a believer in write it down, write your vision, create the picture and story. And in our company, every year we have a vision day. And I always go back and reenact the being at a card table with a telephone, and it was an old-fashioned telephone back then, and that acted out and making a commitment, and here we are today. And I back then would have never imagined that we would have had that impact. So for me, the successes are really creating something that's transformational and creates a shift in students' lives. And again, it's about students feeling good about themselves. And I think back to my childhood and what a difference that would have made for me if I could have had that confidence. And we that confidence to know who you are, like I'm secure in who I am, I know what I stand for, and then have that courage to express. I think that's what held me back so much when I was in school. I was so worried about what other people think about me. And when students come to super camp today, all through the years, I see that shift in, where they don't act out to be liked. They just be themselves. And the surprise is when they be themselves, others like them. And I see almost puzzled looks on some students' faces when I'm just being myself. Why are other students gravitating towards me? But when you know who you are, what you stand for, and your good values, you create a core inside of you. You know that we have what we call the 8 keys of excellence, and those are from the beginning. And it's principles to live by. And those principles are sticky and stick with students. So to go through them quickly, is it's integrity. It's integrity where we match our values, we're clear on our values, and then our behavior matches our values. So that's congruent and we're in integrity. It's failure leads to success. You'll see my hands moving because I use mnemonics to memorize them, and our students do as well. We peg them to our body, and then of course we have our body everywhere with us. So the 8 keys of excellence go with us everywhere. So it's failure leads to success. It's learning from our mistakes. It's viewing failure as the feedback that we need to learn, grow, and succeed. It's speak with good purpose. It's speaking honestly and kindly, and it's about the intention of our words. Again, the intention of our words to build ourselves and others up rather than tear ourselves down. And then it's this is it. It's chin up. It's be in present time. Make the most of every moment. It's about commitment. It's make our dreams happen, knowing our goals and following them unwaveringly. It's about ownership. Ownership is taking responsibility for our actions. And one of my favorite lines is, own the choices you make and the results that follow. All the way back to my real estate days, it's like own your results. So own your choices, the choices you make and the results that follow. It's flexibility. It's being willing to do things differently to achieve your goals, and balance, live your best life. So those are the 8 keys of excellence, and they make up who we are. And I often talk about it being a core inside of you. Like if I put all those values and principles in a glass cylinder, and then they're inside of me, they're my core. And I say, scientists take core samples to find the elements that are in them. And if I took a sample of your core, what would I find? So students feel good when they have positive core, when they know who they are and what they stand for. And when situations happen, they know how they're going to respond and act. So, we teach the 8 keys of excellence. We work with schools across the US and in other countries. Again, it's about the culture, and it's about the learning and life skills. And it is, when I say the life skills, it's about creating this core of excellence in there that make the shift in everything that they're doing. And that is another, I want to say, success in that, we've reached millions because we teach the 8 keys in schools, and this has been over decades, and the teachers reach a lot of students. And we have a lot of schools around the US and also internationally with 8 keys up on the walls everywhere they go. Actually, our very first international program was 1990, and it was in the Soviet Union. It was still the Soviet Union back there. It was in Moscow. And we partnered with a couple of schools there and put on super camp there. And, years later, I was speaking in Australia and talking about the 8 keys, and somebody was from Russia and said, I've been at school 46 and I saw your 8 keys on the wall. So it's spread. And that's what I feel so grateful for is, the legacy of where we've put out there. And that's definitely a surprise. So it wasn't, it's not all successes all the time. I think about the key failure leads to success. It definitely is um, a shift in mindset. We have 3 questions we tell students when they're going through life and learning. And it's like when a mistake happens, it's like, what happened? What did you learn? What will you do differently next time? What happened? What did you learn? What will you do differently next time? I had a big mistake challenge. This is before I started Super Camp. And it was a financial loss where I actually lost a lot of possessions. I lost a lot of things. And I kept thinking everything's being taken away. And just the emotion. And, this whole process was over, probably 3 months. But what I realized when I felt like, oh, I let everyone down. I um, made such a big mistake that affected so many. And who am I? And what I realized then was people can take away possessions, people can take things away from you. The one thing they can't take away from you is who you are as a person. They could not take away my values. They could not take away my strengths, my abilities, my skills, my vision, my goals. I'm still me. And just, I could get it intellectually and talk about it, but to really get it in my body that nobody can take away me. And who I am is up to me. So, that was a challenge. And one of the biggest learnings that I go back to is that nobody can take away me, that I am responsible for me, who I am. And when you take 100% responsibility from that, that is, that's a big learning. So also, I also look at when challenges come up too, it's like there's times to take immediate actions or things that need to happen. But I also learned that often that just with time, things often resolve or there's solutions. So it's like that time of surrender and just, it's not surrender and I'm not responsible and it's not my fault. It's more like being in the flow of life and that in that space that you can sometimes feel and see solutions or something feels right. So that was just a really important lesson. So looking where we are now, another challenge that we've all had over this last year with the pandemic, it's impacted so many areas of our life and being and future and put it on a different trajectory and all that's going on. So, you know, um, thinking of lessons during that as well is that you really need to come back to who are you and how you can support others, what you can commit to. And it's not like, poor me, it's not my fault. This happened to me. It's just being in the space of that. For us with our programs, one of the things that came out of it is that we developed a whole online portal that we didn't have before. So with all of our lessons with students, with all of our lessons for teachers, we did videos and created lessons and interaction. We also did live master classes with interactions with students. The first summer, which was 2020, we actually we couldn't do for the first time, that was our 39th year, we could not do super camps, so live in person like we always have. So we did a online version, which was 150 students joined Monday through Friday for 4 weeks. So that was a lot. And the students did make a lot of great connections and learning. So, that's something that came out of it. We wouldn't have been forced into learning how to do things as well online and create online portals and do it. So now it's kind of a hybrid, I want to say, now that we're back open again. Last summer we did live super camps and our schools are back open. So some of that's happened. But plans for the future is, excuse me, more focus, I think, not I think, I know, more focus on the culture and environment. A lot of our students are hurting and from the experience. So that social emotional learning is, a big part. And I think it's always been universal, the importance of a positive culture that we create for learning because of, I touched the back of my head, just our survival is we want students not to be in that fight flight mode, but really being comfortable, safe, secure. And that's what opens up learning and curiosity. So it really is about a blend of everything that we're doing. And we're all about um, positive, curious, really creating a love of learning. And that's what we see our future. Continuing that love of learning of what we're about. So, I still feel that sense of fulfillment and what we do. And I get so much satisfaction and fulfillment of the programs we do, the direction we're going, and see that as our way of changing the world. And it's universal for everyone. So thank you. Thank you for being here with me.